Hi, there are four groups of houses in astrology which can show you a lot about the motivation of a person and his personality as well, and overall his life or her life. And you can understand a lot for the psychology of a person, and it's very easy to check those for these four types where the person falls astrologically. By first seeing your birth chart calculator. You need to go to my website astrolab.com, where there is a birth chart calculator. I'm putting a direct link on this video straight to the birth chart calculator, and you need to know your time of birth. It's very important. You cannot check the house positions in your chart, and you cannot do this technique unless you know your time of birth, at least within 10-15 minutes correctly. And when you enter your details, you get a chart like that. Those of you who are used to working with the circular chart, by the way, I use tropical astrology, not sidereal. I'm not a sidereal astrologer. I use tropical, but I use just the square chart because I like it, and it doesn't matter. It's all the same. So, and I want you to look at the position of only the 7 planets. The 7 visible traditional planets. Don't include Rahu or Ketu, but include all the others: the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter. Those 7 planets. The Sun and Moon are called planets in astrology. That's how we indicate them. And I want you to check in which of those 4 types of houses you have most planets in. And they're the first one, 1st, 5th, and 9th. The first pair of houses are the first here. So if you have cluster of planets, say here, here, and here. This is the 1st, the 5th sign from the ascendant, and the 9th sign from the ascendant. We're not looking at house cusps here. We're looking at the houses from ascendant. This is the beginning of the horoscope, always the ascendant sign, which is indicated by this big square here, by the first number, is the first sign, and we're looking at the 5th sign from the ascendant and the 9th. If you see a few planets, say Venus and the Sun here, Mars here, maybe Saturn here. If you see 2-3 planets, in those houses, so 4 or more in particular, if you have most of your planets, of those 7 planets, situated in 1st, 5th, or 9th house, these are the so-called the self and spiritual houses. Such people would tend to be very inspirational and often very idealistic. They will not be driven by money. They will be driven by goals, by inspirations. You cannot make them do something unless they really believe in it, unless they feel fire about it, unless it just feels meaningful. This is the Dharma houses, as they call them in ancient astrology. And Dharma is what we should do. Dharma is a spiritual path everyone should follow. And these people are very much into self-knowledge, into higher knowledge, into spirituality as well, or maybe into some philosophical knowledge like philosophy, politics, law. They're very much into ethics and what is right to do. They can be often sometimes even dogmatic, with their beliefs, what is right and what is not right. And they can be often inspirational figures about others, because these people, they always look for what is the best thing. They try to find what is the best thing to do in life, according what is God's will, basically. Even if they're not spiritual, they want to act on inspiration. They want to act on something which feels meaningful and purposeful to them, to their soul. And often such people, because they're so inspired from inside, they can be leaders, they can be inspirational figures, they can be very creative. The 5th house is the house of creativity. These people very much believe in creative expressions. They're co-creators of their life. 1st house is the house of the physical body and self-knowledge, and 9th house is the house of higher knowledge, of knowing God, of ideals, of belief systems. So these people are very much triggered by such high-minded, spiritual, inspirational, idealistic things. You cannot, if you get them into a big corporation, for instance, they'll not be inspired to achieve there because they want to make so much money and they want to go to Nigeria and take all their oil and just to enrich a few families. No. It has to be ethically right for them. They can do it, for instance, lead a big corporation because they believe they can improve the circumstances. They believe they would enrich everyone involved. If they don't have this belief and this idealistic connection to something, that's, you've lost them there. You know, they need purpose, and they're inspirational figures. So if you have 3, 4 or more planets there, you know, you're very much motivated by such things, by ethics, by morality, by spirituality, by inspiration, by creativity. Self-knowledge is very important. These people always try to improve on themselves. They always like would work out, take care of their body. They'll do the right thing always, what is spiritually right or morally right and ethically right, you know. So and they're quite inspirational. I said these are some so-called like leadership qualities. The next pair of houses are the 2nd, 6th, and 10th, which are here. So if you have, say, Saturn and Moon here, and then the 6th house, say, the Sun here, and then in the 10th house, these are the Earth houses, as we call them, and maybe, let's say, Mars here, or maybe more planets, maybe a bit less, but anything above 3 planets in any of those pair of houses that I showed you makes you very strongly motivated by this, gives this very strongly in your character. These people are very practical people. These are the Earth houses, the 2nd, 6th, and 10th. They're connected to practicality, to being productive, to tangible things. These people, you can motivate them through what they will receive as a reward, financially or practically. These people are motivated by providing. For instance, planets in the 2nd house are, you know, these people are nurturers. They want to build up something tangibly, to build up, whether it's an empire or a family, and they tend to take their responsibilities seriously, and they tend to try and manage finances and resources better. They have very practical motivation in them. The 6th house is again very duty, service. This is the house of hard work and service and duty and perfecting everything, practical, fixing things, improving material circumstances, you know, working to improve and to upgrade poor material situations into better ones. And 10th house is the house of your career, generally your reputation, career, worldly achievements, you know. So these people are very practical. If you have more planets here, they'll be down to earth. On the negative side, they can be a bit materialistic and superficial and fussy, as they say. I have my partner, for instance, he has, out of 7 planets, he has 6 in the 6th and the 2nd house, in the earth houses. So he works like a horse, you know. Is that the expression? Maybe I think the horse thing was associated with something else. Okay, but he works very hard, and he's all about the good cars and the good clothes and the good, you know, brands, which sounds to me very superficial, but he's a responsible, hardworking person, and material things motivate him. And we need those people, you know. We live in a material world. Let's say, if you have, the next pair of houses is the 3rd, 7, and 11, which are indicated here. Say if you have your Sun, Venus, Mars here, and then the 7th house is here, so you have Moon here, and the 11th house is this house, so you have Saturn here, or Jupiter, you know. But 3 or more planets in the 3rd, 7th, and 11th houses makes you, these are the so-called houses of desire. These are the social houses. It will make you a very social person, someone who needs to exchange information, to read, to gain knowledge, like it's more like information, to give and take information. It's not so much like spiritual, but they're more like idea people that are stimulated by exchange of ideas, that are stimulated by knowledge. For instance, I have 4 planets here and my Moon here, so I have 5 out of 7 planets in those so-called desire houses and social desire houses. So such people, even when they try to escape from others, they can't, you know. They're always somehow, there'll be a lot of people around them, and they're usually quite stimulated, and they're quite activated into action and motivated through exchange with other people, whether it's with the spouse. The 7th house shows partners, business partners, and marriage partners and relationships. The 11th house shows friendships and the social group. These people feel desire to be accepted by the social group, and people with like-minded idea. And 3rd house is all kinds of information. 3rd house is your co-workers, 3rd house is your siblings, 3rd house is your neighbors, your everyday people that you meet, that you communicate with, is co-workers, teammates, you know. So it's all very much connected to other people. The 3rd, 7th, and 11th house, if you have more planets there, you'll be very much social person, idea person, communications person. They can write, they can media, you know, phone calls, connecting others, can be middlemen, and they can, but it's also, because it's connected to other people, it's called the house of desires, because it's things we desire. We desire a partner. It's not necessarily what is right for us, what is spiritually right, but this is connected to how we want society to see us, the 11th house. How we want to be perceived and accepted by others, and the goals that we want to achieve in order to be accepted by society, the 11th house. What the 7th house, the desires towards a partner, to have a partner to, you know, to impress, to seduce. Another, 3rd house is to impress with your, you know, to influence others intellectually as well, to exchange ideas as well, to influence your people in your immediate environment as well. So such people somehow might feel a bit more in the negative manifestation of many planets in those desire and social houses. Is such people is a bit dispersed, they're not focused, they're pulled by different desires in different directions, you know, the partner, this person, they cannot gather themselves too much within themselves with all those ideas in their head. They cannot like get this peace of mind to be more collected, you know. All these desires are pulling them in different directions. So you see them, I look at, I'm kind of a bit mad, I'm not very grounded, but you know, they're fun people to be around, but usually within themselves they're not so peaceful because of having a lot of desires and feeling ungrounded because of those desires, and because they're impressionable from others, you know, it's all about other people there. And then the last set of houses is the 4th, 8th, and 12th house. These are the emotional houses. So planets here say Saturn, Jupiter, then the 8th house, Sun, Venus, or in the 12th house maybe you have Moon here, you know, but anything like 3 or more planets in the 4th sign from the ascendant, in the 8th sign from the ascendant, we're talking signs, or in the 12th sign from the ascendant, will make you more emotional, more, these are the mystical emotional houses. Such people are more introspective. They are much more, for them is important psychological transformations. They're very much interested in psychology, into understanding the undercurrents, the workings of the psychology, of the hidden worlds, mysticism, occult studies, spiritual meditations, and anything like that which is connected to feelings, to introspection, to the inner world. The imagination tends to be much more wilder, much more deeper. The inner life, those people, the most intense, most deepest, they're like an iceberg basically. You just see on the surface very little of them, and inside this is where their depth is. Their depth is inside, because there's a lot of hidden energy around them, and a lot of everything is happening within themselves, you know, the very rich, intense inner life. So these are the sensitive, emotional people who are more impressionable by others, who have to watch themselves a little bit, how others can influence them more, and they can be impractical in the negative sense, more too emotional sometimes, and too within themselves, too hidden, too kind of private and mystical, you know, escaping reality somehow. And it's good if they have some planets in the earth houses, for instance, here in the 6th, or here, sorry, in the 2nd, or in the 6th, or in the 10th, which are the more practical houses. It's good to have some planets there to balance out a bit their, you know, their mystical to spiritual side, to introspective side, to emotional side. And sometimes people with many planets in the air, in the watery emotional houses, 4th, 8th, and 12th, they can be more susceptible to psychological disturbances, and they can be more susceptible to damage that is within themselves, you know, and that is not obvious to others, you know, but it's in more extreme cases. So it's good for them to have some earth planets in the earth houses, 2nd, 10th, or 6th, to balance them a bit. Just like people who have a lot of planets in the social houses, which pulls them into desires, it's good to have some planets into the opposite houses of the social ones, which is the fire houses, the 1st, 5th, and 9th. So it can, because the 3rd, 6th, and 11th houses is our desires, what we desire to do, the partner, you know, being accepted in society, communications, learning, doing our own thing here. It's our desires which can pull us apart. But if you have some planets, if you have many planets in the 3rd house here, But if you have some planets to balance in the first, fifth, and ninth, or maybe here some, or maybe, you know, in the fire houses, then the fire houses is what you should do, what is morally right to do versus what you want to do. People with too many planets in the desire houses, 3rd, 7, 11, they tend to serve too much their desires, which can be damaging to them. So it's good for them to balance it through having, if they have some planets which are, you know, in the more inspirational houses, which connects them more to higher purpose, to higher meaning, so they don't just follow blindly their desires, you know. So it's good, but very few people have all their planets just in one set of those 4 different houses. A lot of them would have 2 planets here, maybe 2 here, maybe 1 here, 1 here, you know. So a lot of people are more balanced. But I'll talk about different combinations in the next video. Now it was mostly that. If you see someone with 4 or more planets in any of those, you already know what their major motivation will be and how to deal with them. Thank you.